This is Faith Encouraged with Father Barnabas Powell. Homilies designed to help you live a purposeful and faith-filled life in Jesus Christ. Here's Father Barnabas.
I am big on demographics and statistics. I like them. I have to always remember, and I always have to remind myself that figures don't lie, but liars do figure. But over and over again, I have discovered that if you wish someone to believe what you're saying, if you wish a group of people to do what you ask them to do, one of the most important elements of that is to know the people you're talking to. Know the place that they're in. Know what affects their lives. Know what influences their thinking. For instance, did you know that there is a strong minority of millennials who now believe that we should curtail the freedom of speech? A strong minority. It's not a majority, thanks be to God. But it is a strong minority of millennials who have been raised in a world where they have been taught that speech that makes me feel bad is necessarily bad and should be curtailed. If someone says something that makes me feel bad. Now, do you know why this is so troubling? Not because it's wrong, but because it contains a kernel of truth. It is certainly true that what the scripture in the Old Testament says should be our mantra. Lord, make my words sweet like apples of gold and pitchers of silver. We should strive to make our words sweet, and they should be kind, and they should be loving. Here's the challenge. Sometimes the kindest and most loving words are, you know you're going to kill yourself if you keep doing that. Wait a second. You mean I can't do something? Exactly. January the 22nd in this country is the annual March for Life. And once again, our Orthodox churches will participate in the annual March for Life to commemorate the disastrous decision of Roe versus Wade that legalized the taking of life in this country up to and to the point of actual birth. Fortunately, that doesn't happen as often as we might think, but the thousands and thousands and thousands of children that have been destroyed by this scourge of abortion continue. Now, having said that, I know that I speak to a group of people that have varying degrees and feelings of the political positions about the situation of abortion. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. Because while there could be different opinions and different ideas in society about different policies and ideas, within the kingdom of God, we do not have such freedom. God has blessed life and is the creator of life, and it is the wisdom of the church that says a society that begins to denigrate the value of life cannot survive. Brothers and sisters, it's not will not survive, shall not survive. It's just a matter of math. Did you know that for a society to sustain itself, it must never fall below a birth rate of at least 2.2 children per family for a society to sustain itself? Do you know why Germany is allowing all these immigrants in? Their birth rate is 1.2. The reality is Germany is disappearing. Because of the abortion policies in the country of Russia during the Soviet scourge, that nation has now gone out of its way to encourage births to the point of paying people to have babies. I love what the country of Georgia did. The country of Georgia, very ancient and very powerful, probably one of the most ancient Orthodox countries in the world. The Archbishop, the Patriarch of the Georgian Orthodox Church, got on national television and said, "I'll be the godfather of every baby that's born this year." the population of Georgia exploded. Because it is demographically and basic science, angels, that if a society doesn't replace itself, it will go away. The modern Western societies are now approaching the point of no return of being able to replace their populations. Guess whose population is growing by leaps and bounds? Islam. On an average, 4.2 babies per family. It's math, angels. It's just math. And so when the church in her wisdom says to you, pay attention to ancient and timeless truths, even though they may make you uncomfortable, let's cinch up our big boy pants and let's deal with that as it is. But it is a mistake, brothers and sisters, to reduce the problem of American society to the sin of abortion. By the way, you do know sins are forgivable. You know that, don't you? And you also understand that sin in the Orthodox Church isn't the breaking of a rule, right? You do know that, right? Because if it's just about breaking the rule, then you're in charge, and you don't need to be in charge. I've seen what you do to your life. Don't do that. Sin in the Orthodox tradition is not the breaking of a rule, but an illness that needs medicine to be healed. Katalavete. Do you all understand? Sin is not the breaking of a rule. Sin is a wound that needs medicine to heal it. And so the church in her wisdom gives us all of the spiritual medicine we will ever need to apply to every spiritual wound we have to make us whole and healthy and complete human beings. Sometimes that medicine tastes bad. I don't know if any of you have ever had to take castor oil before. Lord have mercy. Nastiest stuff in the world. Nowadays, my 4-year-old looks forward to getting a fever because the medicine she takes tastes like cherry. Another symptom of our society doing good things that ends up having challenging results. If we reinforce in our children's lives the notion that they should never ever have any problems, never face any difficulties, never face any challenging moments or challenging times, angels, brothers and sisters, we do our children no favor. We create a generation of snowflakes easily destroyed. The very first time that their boss fusses at them for being late to work, they're going to call their mommy. And guess what the boss is going to do? He's not going to care. And so with that in the realization, understanding the wisdom of the faith is absolutely necessary if we're going to be whole and complete human beings. The wisdom of the faith says life is valuable and to be cherished because it is not authored by us. Life is authored by God. God is the one who said, "Let there be light." I love the constant arguing among scientists about creation and evolution. They're hilarious. I love watching them do it. It's great sport. And now they've come to the conclusion that the universe suddenly burst into existence from the Big Bang. And I always put my arm around them and hug them deeply and say, who lit the fuse? All they do is push the question back one statement. Eventually, scientists and we humans always come to the end of our wisdom. And it's at that point that we can look out over the abyss of our unknowledge and see the face of Jesus Christ, who comes to us from the Father to show us the truth. In our gospel lesson today, we see 10 men who have a horrible disease. Do you remember what I said about sin? They have the disease of leprosy. I don't know if you know anything about leprosy, but leprosy is a horrible scourge on the medical world, on any society. It is a wonderful picture of the sickness of sin, because leprosy eats away at the physical body just like sin eats away at our spiritual body. These lepers were sent outside the city. They couldn't live with normal people. They had to live in what was called leper colonies. And 10 lepers found out Jesus was coming by one day, and they were smart boys because they had heard that Jesus has medicine. And so they go out and say, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." And what does Jesus say? Jesus says to them, not "you're healed." Jesus says to them not, "Oh, everything's okay, don't worry." Jesus gives them a command: go and show yourself to the priests. Now, why did the Lord do that? Other people he just healed. Why did the Lord tell these 10 lepers to go and show themselves to the priest? Well, lots of reasons. We could talk about it. But what I want you to get from this passage today is this: if the spiritual illness it needs to be healed, it will only be healed by the hard work. Watch me. Listen carefully. Spiritual illness can only be healed by one of the most bitter medicines we have. Obey. Obedience is tough for me. Mainly because if you've ever seen me try to put together a toy, or, by the way, I learned my lesson this year. The girls got a trampoline. Guess what Father Barnabas did? I understand you put trampolines together. How much? I don't care how many zeros. Come. I'm just not good at obeying. I don't like to follow the directions. I don't like it. I can do it myself. And that always gets me in trouble. Well, brothers and sisters, that's exactly the truth in our own lives. That's what fosters and keeps the canker and sickness of sin burning in our souls. It is this inability for all of us to bend the knee and say, somebody knows better than I do. Go and show yourself to the priests. But then I want you to notice what happened. All 10 men go, and as they're obeying, they notice their disease is gone. Now, one of the fellas turns around and says, somebody ought to say thank you. And he goes back to the Lord and falls down on his feet and worships him. And Jesus looks down and says, weren't there 10 of you boys? Only one came back to say thanks? And guess who this one was? Xenos. He was a stranger. He was a foreigner. He was a Samaritan, a half-breed, somebody who wasn't part of the club. Only this foreigner came back to say thank you? Rise, son. Your disease is healed. Now, we don't know what happened to the other 9. It's none of our business. What we do see is the pattern that each of us must follow if we are ever going to be healed from the spiritual sickness of sin. We first must learn the hard medicine of obedience. And then, brothers and sisters, we must learn the equally difficult medicine of gratitude. Old preacher friend of mine once told me, he said, son, when a man becomes unthankful, he becomes unholy. And that's exactly right. Have you ever had your kids not say thank you for something? Do you remember how it made you feel? Have you ever had... Now, I'm not going to tell on my children because I always get in trouble when I do that, but I have seen a child get privilege after privilege after privilege and then turn and look at her parent and say, and I want this too. Wait a second. What about the 7 things you just got? Yeah, but I want this too. You see, ladies and gentlemen, it is not only the ability to obey, but watch this, but the equal inability to be grateful that will keep the fire of sin sickness burning in your life. You want to know why you're having trouble with relationships? You want to know why you can't get a handle on the goals that you need to set to move your life forward? Do you want to know why you keep revisiting that same sin over and over and over in your life? The 2 places you must visit if you're ever going to get to the bottom of that illness is, are you humble enough to be obedient, and are you strong enough to be grateful? Because if you can do those 2 things, children, the leprosy of sin will be healed in you, and you'll be made whole. And you'll be the man or the woman that God has called you to be this morning, in this place, in the kingdom of Jesus Christ, the precious, unchanged, and ever faithful and timeless Orthodox Christian faith in this storehouse, in this building, in Little Cumming, Georgia, is every drop of medicine you will ever need to ever be healed of everything that's wrong with you. From stem to stern, front to back, everything you need, the storehouse is here. And in just a moment, the ultimate medicine of immortality will come to you. And you will be invited by Father. Isn't that interesting that we call our priest Father? That means this isn't a CEO organization. This is a family. That means we've got to learn to get along. Some of you don't have happy families. Some of you have great families. Teach the rest of us, please. In a moment, Father is going to bring medicine out to you. And the perpetual question that is asked every day of your life by God Himself. Look at me in the face and listen to me. Every moment of every day, the King of the universe whispers one question in your ear. Every moment of every day. Do you want to be healed? Obedience and gratitude gives you the ability to say yes. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Father Barnabas is the priest at the Saints Raphael, Nicholas, and Irene Greek Orthodox Church in Cumming, Georgia. Find out more at faithencouraged.org. That's faithencouraged.org.